Welcome to another episode of Untethered Talks, and this is the most untethered conversation I've had yet. I recently spoke with Dave Murphy, also known as Allegedly Dave. Even though Dave and I disagree on a few issues, it was Dave who got me intrigued enough to research Flat Earth, and I would like to show this interview as a way to break the ice on the subject of biblical cosmology. Dave and I delve into several topics like psychiatry, central banks, law enforcement, free energy, and living off the central grid. Without further ado, let's dive right in. Welcome to Untethered Truth today. I'm really glad to have you here.
Well, thanks for having me on.
I wanted to ask you a question. How did you come up with the name Allegedly Dave?
Well, that comes from the concept of free man on the land, looking at common law, realizing the name is a bit of a trap. So there's a lot of people in that kind of movement who call themselves commonly known as, or some Dave of the family Murphy. But I went on a radio show and been on there like 3 or 4 times before, and every time I had a different name. So the host said, "Oh, I'm just going to call you Allegedly Dave," and it kind of stuck.
Awesome. Now, you're perhaps best known for your belief that the Earth is flat. What convinced you to believe this, and why is it important to you?
Right. Well, I was just like everybody else. I had no intention of thinking the Earth was flat, but I was listening to a science experiment, or a bunch of science experiments, and one of them was called the Bedford Levels experiment, and it's a guy who got into the middle of a canal that was straight for 6 miles, and he had a friend row to the other end of the canal 6 miles away, and he could see the flag on the back of the boat for the whole journey. Now, what came out of that experiment was the curvature calculation, which I'd never ever considered before. So the physical curvature of the Earth, how much over a particular distance will that curvature actually block? And it came out to, with a circumference of 25,000 miles. It should be 8 inches per mile squared. Very simple. So armed with that calculation, because I thought, well, hang on a minute, that makes the Earth seem a bit small, doesn't it? Hiding something like 25 feet over 6 miles. I thought, well, hang on, that can't be right. So I checked it. I drew the Earth up in AutoCAD and checked it out, and it turned out to be right. So I went down to a beach where I knew there was a lighthouse 12 miles out from the beach. And I took my camera and took it right close to the water and zoomed in on the bottom of the lighthouse. And I could see the very bottom of the lighthouse where the rocks met the water. But according to that calculation, the first 32 feet should have been missing from that lighthouse. The physical curvature of the Earth should have blocked the first 32 feet, which meant I could see way more, than I was supposed to. In fact, the horizon was behind the lighthouse, which meant I was seeing way, way more than I was supposed to. And that's what hooked me. And it's important. It's important because you will suddenly realize how much this system has been lying to you. If they can lie about, the very ground you stand on, then what else are they lying about?
Most people find it hard to believe that the whole world would be in on a conspiracy to conceal the shape of the Earth. What would you say to people that would think that?
Well, it's not actually that hard. I mean, it's hard to set up, but it's not actually hard to keep this thing going because, you're taught this story, from the very first moment you go to school. The first thing they do is they bring out the globe and they show you, oh, you live here on this globe. And, and this is before the age of 7, before the age of 7, anything you learn, you consider that absolute truth. You haven't got the faculties to analyze information before it comes into you. So anything you learn before the age of 7 is the foundational truth of your life. So the very first thing they teach you is the globe. And then everywhere you look in the society, you'll see globe programming, reinforcing it. So it's one of those things that you never ever, even consider, because it's obvious. It's obvious this is the truth. So yes, and you'll find that people will react very strongly, to anything that contradicts that, because, as I said, it's a foundational element of your life.
That's good. Now, you mentioned that you observe Saturday Sabbath. Can you briefly describe your religious beliefs and how long you've been ascribing to that?
Okay, I am a Hebrew Israelite. I am a blood descendant of the Hebrew Israelites, and I realize that the Hebrew scriptures, which you would call the Old Testament, are a way of life. They're not. It's not a religious book. It's a book of law, history, and guidance, and it's showing the way of life of a very particular people. And yes, so I observe the Sabbath. I observe all the commandments, and trying best to live my life the way the Most High intended.
Okay. Now, I've only encountered, this is not really part of my regular questions, but I've only encountered Hebrew Israelites just a few times, and it wasn't a good experience. Do you have any racial animosity towards people of the Caucasian race? Because I had a really bad experience with somebody, and I'm not saying everybody would be. I know it's nuanced, but basically feeling like it was kind of like there was a genocidal type approach they were coming to me with. So that's something I'm kind of wanting to know since you said that.
Right. Well, just like in the flat Earth, you have the controlled opposition group. You have the controlled opposition flat Earth, who are there to make flat Earth look ridiculous. Okay.
Yeah.
In the so-called Black Hebrew Israelites, the ones who dress up like Power Rangers and stand on the corners, street corners, shouting at people, they are part of a controlled opposition group. Okay, designed to make these people look ridiculous and angry and genocidal and whatever, to put off the newly awakened Israelites from associating with them, and also to give the system a new sort of terrorist group called Black Identity Extremists to target. So yes, I don't associate with those. Those are called the Hebrew Israelite camps, and essentially what they're doing is leading the newly awakened Israelites back into a Hebrew flavored version of Christianity.
Okay. So would you describe yourself as a Christian when you say that?
No.
Okay.
No, absolutely not. No, I don't ascribe to any religion. I consider them control systems.
Okay. I saw that you made a claim that psychiatry is a scam. Can you briefly explain why you think that?
Well, most of the medical system is a scam, because the whole medical system was taken over by the Rockefellers, in about 1910, and essentially they use the spectrum of human experience. They created that spectrum as veering into mental illness. The model of a supposedly healthy or psychologically healthy person is a very narrow spectrum, and anyone who deviates from that is now considered mentally ill and can be medicated and whatever. It's pseudoscience, and there are things beyond our experience, such as possession and multiple possession, that are just labeled as a psychiatric problem. But no, I absolutely believe that things like possession, which are labelled variously as name's gone out of my head now, um, multiple personality disorder, schizophrenia, and things like that. I think there's more to it. I think these people see more than we do, and so they're medicated and hidden away, so we don't find out what they're actually seeing.
Okay. Can you share what you know about central banks and what their role is in worldwide corruption?
Wow. Okay, central. I
like to go deep on the show, man.
Tamale, then you want.
If you can sum it up briefly, maybe.
Yeah, another one of the big scams is money. Okay, money and debt, and essentially, your bank there is designed to get you into debt, and the central banks are designed to get countries into debt. Now there are maybe 2 or 3 countries that do not have a Rothschild-controlled central bank. And let's say 9/11. At 9/11, there was like a handful of countries that didn't have a Rothschild-controlled central bank, and you'll recognize them, because literally after 9/11, they started falling one by one. So Afghanistan, Iraq, and Libya didn't have these control banks. So essentially, the American government have gone in, under the guise of some, reason for a war, and installed a central bank. So everyone will get onto that system, so they can crash the whole system all at once. And that's what we're seeing now. We're coming into that time where all the central banks, all the banks of each country are going to collapse at the same time, and that'll be the financial crisis, drawing everybody into the one world monetary system, and universal basic income and a social credit scheme, and that's what we're aiming for.
Okay.
Oh, and the invisible money. That's the invisible, cryptocurrency type money, which is like doesn't exist. It's just a figment of everyone's imagination.
Oh yeah. Okay. Now I've seen that you live off the grid. Can you tell people why that's important and how that works for you?
Oh, well, it's important because you're trapped into this system. You're trapped in this I don't know, it's a 9-to-5 world where you have to chase money in order to survive and pay bills and things, and you're locked in this rut essentially that you can't escape from, and you can't actually end up being yourself because you're too busy doing all the things you have to do. Yeah. Your life isn't your own. Essentially, you just have to do these things, and it's like a treadmill that is continually going faster and faster, and eventually we're all going to be flung off that thing. Okay, we're heading to that now. Food prices are going up, fuel prices are going up, bills are going up, your wages are staying the same or disappearing. Very soon, virtually everyone's wages are going to go. You'll lose your job, and everyone's going to be flung off that wheel. And the idea is that you'll beg the government for for some relief, and they're going to come with their prepackaged system that is going to further enslave us in a way that we're never going to escape from. So that is the trajectory most people on the grid, are heading towards, complete control. And I think that if you try and extricate yourself from that system so that it doesn't have so much of a hold on you, then you'll be better prepared for when this all comes down.
Okay. In vain with that, sounds like obviously we know fiat currency is it's going to be devalued more and more. How would you, I guess, run an economy without money if you had it your way?
Oh, if I had it my way, okay. I was actually giving this a lot of thought. I was actually going to do
If
a
it was
video.
Dave's world, how would you do it?
I said I was going to do this because I was going to do a video thanking everybody in this country for for electing me as the leader of the country. So so my view is that it would start with education, okay, because we don't have real education anymore. So rather than the school teacher student model, you'd have centers of excellence where you have access, or not centers of excellence, centers of access, where you'd have access to the sum total of human experience. So let's imagine you might have an interest in woodwork. There'll be a woodworking area. And so you'll gravitate naturally to that area, and you'll find all sorts of people of all ages who are also into woodwork, and you end up teaching each other. And when you get to a stage where you think you feel like you know all you can learn about that subject, you'd be encouraged to start your own business doing what it is you love doing. The only stipulation would be that 10% of what you earn would go to anyone who can't afford your product. Okay. Couple that with making rents and mortgages illegal and abolishing them, because having somewhere to live is a human right. Making utilities free, because again, they're human rights as well. There was one other thing, I can't remember what it is, but the point is, if you make those free, right, they take most of your earnings. So if those are now free, then the need for money starts to lessen. And if you're working and it's not actually working, if you're doing what you love doing and you're already giving away 10% of what you're earning, then the requirement or the feeling, the need for money will start to go away. And eventually it won't be, you'll be, because you're doing what you love doing, you're not working. And if you've got pride in what you do, you'll be happy to give away what you make. And it's just a slow change to that idea where, you do what it is you're here to do.
Wow. Well, that segues really well into my next question. I like Nikola Tesla a lot, and he believed that mankind could be supplied with free energy. Can you share briefly ways to generate free energy based on what you've discovered?
Okay. I'll try not to get too technical, but
Right.
I was looking into free energy for quite some time. And one of the devices I've started working with was called a Bedini Energizer. And it was something that came about by a guy called John Bedini. What he noticed was, I don't know if you remember those executive toys from the 80s that sit on an executive desk and they'd be like spinning or bouncing or whatever, and they'd seem to go on forever. Okay. Well, John Bedini worked out that these things that are only powered by a little battery would last for months and months and months. And he realized that, as they worked, they were actually kicking a bit of energy back into the battery and keeping it charged. So he drew up a design that did just that, would charge batteries. He sketched it on the back of a napkin for a 10-year-old girl for her a science experiment, a science show or whatever. And she built it. And yes, it kept a light bulb alight for weeks and weeks and weeks. So that circuit was called the Simple Schoolgirl Circuit. And anyone can go online and download the Bedini Energizer or Simple Schoolgirl Circuit and build one yourself. And, might not be as sexy as other free energy devices, but you put a small battery on one end, you put a bank of batteries on the other, and this small battery will keep that bank of batteries charged up. So I'm actually working on a variation of that free energy device, because the device itself has a wheel with magnets on that spins around, and the motion is free. You know, it's the motion of the magnets that generates this power, but the actual motion is free. You're not using it, but you can actually use that power to run even a conventional generator. So right now I'm doing a version of that. I'm building a version of that using 6 microwave transformers. So yes, watch this space, because hopefully in the next few months I'll put that together.
Okay. All right. Well, I've heard that you call the police and the legal system corporate agents. Can you elaborate on that briefly?
Okay. Well, right. So essentially, we are sovereign beings. Okay. We are one step below the Most High Creator. Yeah, there's nobody above us. There's no sneaky Rothschilds or Gateses or anybody actually above us. We're all at the same level, the sovereign being level. Essentially, what they've done to us is they've tricked us into accepting a lower level, because the hierarchy is the Most High Creator, then us, then collectively we created government. So government is below us, and below government created all sorts of fictional entities, corporate agents, right? So person, resident, driver, taxpayer, occupier, officer, whatever, all these fictional entities that only exist on paper. And what they've done is has tricked us into accepting being one of these lower entities. And so we give away our sovereign status. So, you have the right to travel, for instance. You have the natural right to travel any way you see fit, in any way you see fit. But, you get into a car, well, a policeman might say, "Sir, are you the driver of this car?" And you say, "Yes." Well, now you've accepted the lower status of something called a driver, which has taxes, fees, insurances, rules and regulations associated with it. And you've given away your status as, a traveler. So yes, it's all about trickery. And well, I do a 8-hour talk about this. So I can't really give much detail in 2 minutes.
I know these are loaded questions. Honestly, when I started to look at this, there were so many more questions than I feel like I could really get into, but thanks for trying to make that as concise as you can. Now, I heard you mention that 9/11 was when a lot of your awakening happened. Can you tell me what evidence you saw that caused you to wake up to what was going on?
Right. Well, I was watching it from across the water in a place called Hoboken. And at the time, I thought it was a bit odd, but I didn't, I accepted like everybody else did. I was back at work the next day, so, I just moved on. But it wasn't till about 3 or 4 years later, when my daughter came to me with some physics homework that she couldn't do. And the problem was, there was a marble on a tabletop, and a tabletop is 1 meter high. How long does it take the marble to hit the floor? So we worked through the problem, and my daughter said, "I've got it, Dad, I've got it." I said, not so fast. Let's imagine it was a bowling ball on top of the World Trade Center. So we worked that one out, and it came out to be about 10 seconds. And that's when it hit me. I went back and watched the films, and the whole building took 10 seconds to fall. So it was like, how can a building fall through itself through the path of most resistance at the same speed as a bowling ball falling through empty air? And that was when I realized that it couldn't have happened the way they told us it happened. And I kind of thought I was the only one in the world who knew there was something odd. But then I found there's a whole community of people on the internet, and that's what started me off.
Okay. Now, I've thought about this myself, and it seems like you've got a lot of teaching on this. Can Can you tell people about how they can build their own garden and what the benefits of that would be for them?
Build their own garden, as in, what do you mean by that?
Oh, I thought I saw something that you actually teach people how to build a garden. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, that was a particular experiment I was doing because I at one point tried to build an eco village, and we designed houses that were going to be completely self-sufficient, and so inside the house you'd be growing your own food. So essentially, I put together something I called the raised bed square foot garden, which if you imagine, it's like a bookcase on its back. So it's like a bookcase, and it's separated into, say, 6 compartments. And in each compartment, you've got earth and some electronics so that you can control the amount of water, amount of humidity, amount of light in each compartment. And essentially, there are charts you can use to find out what plants you can grow and how concentrated an area you can plant them. So there are, say, in a 2 foot square area, there are some plants you can only put 1 seed in the middle. There are others you can put like 16 in. But yeah, there are certain charts for that. So essentially, I put this thing together. Again, it's like a upturned bookcase, and I put it on a tabletop, and literally set the thing going, and it literally grew enough food to feed a whole family just in I think it was a 6 foot by 4 foot area. So that was just one design, but yes, there's lots of things anyone can do to actually start growing food, including everlasting foods. So let's imagine you go out to a supermarket and get a lettuce. Well, most people throw away the most important part of the lettuce, which is the bottom bit. So when you get a lettuce, cut the bottom bit off, which is usually brown. Stick it in some water and keep the water clean and oxygenated, and literally just start peeling leaves off as and when you need them. The lettuce will continue to grow, and it will just keep growing as long as you keep the medium, keep the water nice and fresh and keep it in the light. There are a whole load of plants that work in the same way. So literally, you can just keep these plants alive and keep eating them.
Wow. Okay. Now, I wanted to pivot back a little bit to what you said about religions. Being a Hebrew, I don't know enough about Hebrew Israelites to really speak about that, but maybe you can help me understand. Do you accept that the Old Testament, as it is written, is true, or do you have some other kind of system of figuring this out? I don't know. Just trying to figure out where you're coming from on that.
Okay, I absolutely believe that the Old Testament is true, even though it's incomplete. I have a King James 1611 Bible, and actually in that book there were 14 extra books that were taken out of all the other Bibles. So that was called the Apocrypha. And there were also other books that were taken out, including the Book of Enoch, the Book of Jasher, and Book of Jubilees, which, if you read all of them, you find that the story becomes more rich and there's more to understand. So yes, it's true. The only problem is that it's been translated into English, which is about the least expressive language there is, and it's opened up to interpretation and deception, which is what the English language is. Essentially, it's a language of deception. But the original language of that book, which is called Paleo Hebrew, it works completely differently to the languages we know today. and you cannot deceive with that language. It's a language of creation, and it's very, very specific, very concrete, and can't be interpreted in any other way.
Okay, because I always understood Hebrew to be kind of an elastic language, meaning that words can have a broad application and it all depends upon how it's contextually used. Would you agree with that, or do you have a
No,
different...
what you're talking about is the fake Hebrew, the so-called modern Hebrew, which was only invented in 1888, I believe. But I can give you a little demonstration of how Paleo Hebrew is very different, if you want.
Okay, yeah, just briefly, if you can, within a minute or so.
All right. I'm going to describe a film to you in English, and you have to guess what the film is. Okay.
Okay.
Right. So a man on the autistic spectrum recounts his life to strangers. What's the film?
I don't know. Rain Man?
Okay. So what happened there in the left-hand side of your brain, you were listening to the words I was saying. You fetch the meanings of the words you've been taught at school, yeah, and then you compared those list of meanings to a set of films you've watched, and you guessed at Rain Man. Okay, so I'm not going to tell you if you're right, but I'm going to tell you the same film in Paleo Hebrew.
Okay.
Now, Paleo Hebrew is the language of pictures, little pictograms that mean something. Okay, so I'm going to use emojis. Okay. So. Man running, a few trees, a park bench, a box of chocolates, a shrimp, and a boat.
Okay, I got you now.
What's the film? Exactly. Right. So
okay.
I didn't have to put those pictures in any order. You would have got it anyway. Yeah. The left-hand side of your brain didn't get involved in that because it can't analyze pictures. What happened was you were imaging the pictures in your mind, and all of a sudden you knew what the film was. You didn't guess. There was no guesswork in it. And that set of pictures can't mean Rain Man or Beautiful Mind or Awakenings or I Am Sam or all the others films that people guess over the years. Yeah, it can only mean Forrest Gump. And you don't take one meaning, because Paleo Hebrew words have 8 different meanings. Okay, you don't choose the one meaning that you like. Yeah, you have to take all the meanings together, and you intuit the word, what the word means, just like you did with the Forrest Gump example.
Wow, well, that's fascinating, man. That was a very interesting thing you just mentioned there. Okay, so that brings me to probably the last question I'll have. So you're not a Christian. Do you have an issue with the New Testament, or do you the claim that Jesus is the way, truth, and life? What do you think about that?
I would say, with respect, it's rubbish. It's utter rubbish. The whole New Testament, is invalid. The Most High, commanded not to add nor take away to his word. And the whole of the New Testament, well, the word new means added, essentially. Yeah. So the Romans who are behind it, the Greco-Romans, not only added the New Testament, they ripped out books left, right, and center from the Old Testament. So the Most High said, don't add or take away. And they did just that.
Well, Jeremiah 33 talks about there being a new covenant with the house of Israel. That's one of the scriptures that is a bit fundamental to the New Testament. And then that's talked about in Hebrews a lot.
Jeremiah 31:31, yeah? But
that's probably what I meant to say. Sorry, I meant to say it that way. Sorry.
Yes. But then if you read on to Jeremiah 31:34, right, it tells you what those days will look like. And we've not ever reached those days yet. Yeah. But everyone will know the word of the Most High. Yeah. They won't need to be taught because everyone will know him. Yeah. That hasn't happened yet. Okay.
Well, I would interpret that as the ministry of the Holy Spirit. That's the way I would interpret that. But there's obviously other people who have different ideas about that.
Not about interpretation, So Ezekiel says, all right, it tells you what should happen before the new covenant. Okay. It tells what's got to happen before. And then, Jeremiah says, this is what it looks like when you get there. We haven't got there yet. So that invalidates the whole New Testament.
Okay. Well, I disagree on that, but that's cool. No problem.
Sure.
I just, but I thought you have a lot of great things to talk about. So anyway, can you tell people how they can find your work if they want to research what you're saying a lot more?
Sure. My website is www.allegedlydave.com, and you can find videos that I put out on YouTube under D Murphy 25, or on the other platforms as allegedly Dave.
Okay. Have you had a lot of censorship on YouTube lately?
Have I? Nowadays. The record.
I love that question. I just got banned. One of my videos got banned just a week ago, and I was just talking about vaccines, and somebody that's already been banned from YouTube. So I try to use code words to do it because I know that they're very particular, but they still banned me because I guess they manually flagged it for review. So anyway, go ahead. You're gonna say.
No, my record now is 8 minutes. I put a video up, and it lasts 8 minutes. I think 3,000 people watched it, and there's a whole bunch of people watching it, and it disappeared in the middle of the video. So and now I'm finding that they're going back and deleting old videos now. So and not even telling me, they're just gone.
Are you on Gab or any other social media that's a little bit more free?
I'm on Telegram, but I'm trying not to be on social media too much.
I think Telegram is probably a pretty good one, but at the moment, I think Gab would be the most promising to not be censored on at some point. So I can't say that for sure because you never know, but the CEO seems very committed to that. And Telegram is good, but there are some people that have expressed that they got banned. So,
I suspect there isn't anything you can use on this system or on the internet, because I don't know if you know, we're on a different internet than we were on, like, say 3 or 4 years ago. We're on a completely different. Yes.
Wow.
I came across it because my internet provider contacted me and said, Dave, you've got to use this new control panel to make changes to your site. And I forgot, and I used the old one. I made changes to my site, and found that the site didn't update on the internet. Then I remembered about using the new one, used the new one, and made a change, and yes, I could see it on the internet, which means there were 2 completely different sites. Right? Wow. 2 sites, and one's on the internet, one's not. Now, the embedded image YouTube videos that were on my site, right, were no longer working. All of a sudden, they just stopped working. That's because the embed URL was HTTP. Do you remember all websites started with HTTP? Yeah. Well, now they're HTTPS.
Yeah, I noticed that. I did notice that.
Right. Now, HTTPS used to be a security protocol, but I think they use that security protocol to basically mirror the real internet and switch everybody over to HTTPS, because no matter what I do, I cannot get to my site that is under HTTP. It's totally invisible. So literally they've put us on a completely different internet, and I suspect that it was there to make it easier for them to monitor and control.
Well, I definitely believe that they're doing everything they can to monitor and control and everything you say and do. I mean, even doing Zoom is tough for me because I know that that's the Chinese government that is pretty much using that for monitoring, but it's the best way for me to record videos right now. So I'm using what I guess I have to, but I'm very, unless, do you have any other ways to record calls like this that are, not real expensive or things like that? Do you know of any other options? Or
no, not really, and it doesn't matter. I don't fear any of this stuff. So, let them know what's going on.
Yeah, we're coming into a Marxist world order is what I talk about a lot, and it's based in Marxism. There's an anti-human agenda. I'm talking about climate change and depopulation a lot right now, but I do want to delve into some of this other stuff because I think people need to be ready. I mean, there's all kinds of knowledge that people can have, but I think what I try to focus on is what's going to transform your life and what's going to prepare you for what's coming your way. So,
well, I'm doing a talk at the moment called Navigating the Matrix, and in it, I talk about, you know, the fact that what we're doing is essentially a game. It's a test. It's life, and this is one of the things that you'll find in a book from the Apocrypha, Second Esdras. If you read Second Esdras, if you read it right, you'll realize that you know, you better straighten up and fly right, because it tells you that we're all engaged in a contest against ourselves, essentially, and you know, essentially nothing in this outer world matters. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter that you know, there's coronavirus and there's new world order and all. Doesn't matter. Yeah. Let me tell you what the big secret is. Shall I tell you what the big secret is?
All right, let's hear it.
Okay, make sure. Okay, the big secret.
Look around, make sure no one's looking. Let's hear it. Sounds good. Let's hear it.
Here's the big secret. You're going to die.
Oh.
That's the big secret. Yeah. Because if you think about it, what these governments are doing are trying to convince you that if you do as they say, you're not going to die. Yeah. But the point is, you are going to die, right? You've got no control of it. You don't know when it's going to happen, right? So that's off the table. You don't have to worry about it. It's the only thing that's inevitable about this life, that you're going to leave it at some point. And, you know, it doesn't matter if it's somebody sticking a needle in your arm and you keel over straight away, or you trip over a paving stone and hit your head. Doesn't matter. What matters is how you live this life. Yeah. What choices do you make in the face of this world that you find yourself in? But the world you find yourself in isn't the important part. So when you watch a film, for instance, you're sitting in the movie theater watching a film, you're watching two films play out. Okay. The first film is essentially the plot line of the film, the world the film is set in. Okay. In our world, it is coronavirus, it's new world order, it's fluoride in the water, all this stuff. Yeah. But the more important film that you're watching is the hero's journey through that film. Yeah. You are the hero of your story. Okay. It's all about, what are you going to do? How are you going to live this life? You've got two paths in front of you, the wicked path and the righteous path. Which path are you going to take? That is the game. That is the contest you're in. Okay. Now, a good friend of mine gave me this quote. He said, better make a choice because the devil owns the fence. So you've literally got to make a choice in this world, which path, and actively take that path. Yeah, because if you don't say anything, you know, it's like if somebody was being murdered over there in the corner and I stood by, you know, just watching, or, you know, videoing it on my phone or whatever, right? Well, now I'm an accomplice to that murder because I'm not doing anything about it. Yeah. If you just sit in this world and just go along with all this stuff that's going on, now you're an accomplice to it. You've got to speak out, stand up and oppose all this evil. Otherwise, you are tainted by that evil. And that's the game we're playing.
I agree with that totally. All right, man. Well, that's pretty much it. I think covered a lot of material here. Hopefully one of these days I'll get to check with you again and talk more. For some reason, when I looked it up, I had no idea that you had more of a biblical perspective than I guess maybe it was just, has that just changed like over a couple of years where you just kind of got more into the Bible, or?
Well, I've been an atheist for 40 years, and it wasn't until about 5 or 6 years ago that, and it was a flat Earth actually. Flat Earth was one of the last straws that broke the camel's back and forced me to read the book.
Wow,
and
that's amazing.
I decided to research the Old Testament, and I found out all this stuff.
I was actually an atheist for about a year when I was in my teen years, my mid-teen years, and just through other people and God's work in my life, I decided that I was going to believe in God again. I wasn't quite like what I'd call a Christian at that moment, but I did feel God's presence. I can relate to someone that came out of atheism, although it was a long time ago for me. But I think there's value in dispelling scientism and breaking the spell of fake science off of people, because it seems like that's something holding a lot of people back in our modern day. Would you agree?
Well, science is a religion. It's just another religion. Yeah.
Yep.
It's there to hide a lot of the amazing parts of this world, and the story of the Most High. And I feel that my journey of searching for truth was actually a journey to find the face of the Most High, because that's where it ultimately leads.
Excellent. All right, man. Well, I do appreciate you coming on. Definitely gave me some things to think about. I'm going to have to look it up and kind of go. I'm still researching a lot, and hopefully there's things that I can learn from this conversation that I can, find out more about. So, but I definitely like the idea of free energy. I know they'll never do it, but I would love to see that. And I'd love to see utility bills somehow just go away, because the cost of gas and things like that are going to drive people into poverty. I agree. So,
well, it's an illusion anyway, because the flat Earth tells you this anyway. We're in a terranium, so there is never ever going to be a shortage. There's never going to be lack. There's always going to be abundance, because every drop of water that's ever been is still here. Every scrap of energy is still here. So
yeah.
So no, there's never going to be a shortage. It's all an illusion.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, I do appreciate your time. I'll go ahead and leave this now. And thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right.
Have a good one.
All right. Bye.
Hey guys, thanks for joining me today. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share the video with friends and family. You can follow me on Facebook at Untethered Truth Prevails. You can also find me on Twitter at UntetheredVince. If you'd like to give to me financially, you can go to Patreon, and you can find me there at Untethered Creations. I'm also on Venmo, and you can find me if you go to Vince-Barton-1. Once again, I really appreciate you all for joining me, and I wish you good success in the pursuit of truth. Grace and peace to you all.